despite a large, amounts of budgets and schemes being allocated to the now the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir, a lot of it doesn't actually translate on the ground into the impact, the kind of impact that one would want to see. Does Jammu and Kashmir have a governance problem? Has it had a governance problem historically? And what could be the ways for this? What could be the reasons for this?
Okay, so if you really go to Srinagar, which is the summer capital of Jammu and Kashmir, continues to be this summer capital. If you go to Srinagar, you will you will be shocked because Srinagar does not give you any signs of conflict in Kashmir. It doesn't tell you that this is a war ravaged or a conflict torn place. Or in fact, it will give you the opposite sense. You will assume that this is a very wealthy and a very prosperous place, because in the last 30 years lot of funding went to Jammu and Kashmir under security expenditure, under development expenditure, under basically 90% of funding of Jammu and Kashmir came from the center for various purposes, but it was concentrated in the hands of few, and you can see that in some urban pockets of Kashmir, essentially wherever the elite has been living in the last 30 years. But the moment you step out of urban Srinagar, urban towns of Kashmir, you will notice that the development, the poverty levels are as bad as the rest of this country. So essentially what I'm saying is that governance and development were hit, of course, because conflict became an industry in Jammu and Kashmir. I have talked about it several times that there's a certain economics of conflict. It suited vested interests in Jammu and Kashmir to perpetuate the conflict. It suited them because every lot of people were minting money out of New Delhi and also out of Pakistan, because Pakistan at the end of the day was functioning as an invisible state in Kashmir. It was functioning because it really invested in massive numbers of assets in Kashmir. It created a huge network of ISI agents. It created a huge network of militants and terrorists in Kashmir. So, so money was coming both from Pakistan and from India, and a lot of people thought that it was beneficial to continue this conflict, to continue the killings, and a lot of people would be disheartened and disappointed that in the last 1 year that graph has gone down tremendously. The graph of violence of civilians has come down tremendously. So what I'm saying is that governance and development, of course, are tied to the conflict and the kind of money that was coming in. But I can now predict that as the conflict is sort of, I shouldn't say that cross-border terrorism is going to end soon, or Pakistan is going to change its behavior or strategy towards India. Pakistani army's existence is dependent on conflict in Kashmir. Its existence is dependent on destabilizing India. So that part may not change easily. But what has changed in the last 1 year is that a lot of money which was being given, or which was being used to perpetuate that conflict, is now finally going to development activities. But I would say that in the last 1 year, unfortunately, bureaucracy is yet to show that it can deliver as in the new current system. It hasn't delivered yet, at least on the fronts of development. One can argue that initially there was a lockdown because militants imposed lockdown after the reorganization of the state. One can also argue that there has been coronavirus pandemic and there was another lockdown because of that, and therefore there has been a disruption almost of over a year and a half. But even then, I would say a lot many things could have happened, because I did go to Ladakh and I saw that despite the lockdown, a lot of work is really happening. Ladakh is on a different trajectory, and I'm very hopeful about its development. I'm not so sure about Jammu and Kashmir, because I don't think the bureaucracy of Jammu and Kashmir has delivered on the development front. I think the security establishment has delivered. The security of Jammu and Kashmir, I would say, has done a marvelous job. We did not see any agitations. We did not see any bloodbath as many had predicted. In fact, mainstream politicians of Jammu and Kashmir had predicted that a lot of people will get killed if Article 370 was nullified or abrogated. That did not happen. Lot of people, lot of cynics, lot of intellectuals in New Delhi and other parts of India had predicted that, Kashmir will burn and the rest of the country will burn if Article 370 was removed. None of that happened. So that really tells us that the security establishment has done an outstanding job, and they must get that credit completely. I think your question about development. So I would say, in very briefly, I would say that except for a few pockets in Kashmir, most of the regions of Jammu and Kashmir have remained underdeveloped. In fact, Jammu region has been really neglected. Ladakh was highly discriminated against by the Kashmiri leadership in the last 70 years. If you go to the upper reaches of Jammu region, Rajouri, Poonch, Doda, Bhaderwa, Kishtwar, you will see that nothing has really has been done by the Kashmiri leadership for people other than Kashmiri community, and that too Kashmiri Muslim community, because Kashmiri Pandits were driven out, they were slaughtered, and they were not asked to come back. And even if they were asked to come back, there was no movement or there was no plan for the return and rehabilitation of Kashmiri Pandits. So if you really look at the entire state of Jammu and Kashmir, Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir today and the Union Territory of Ladakh separately, you will notice large chunks of both the Union Territories have hardly seen any development in the last 70 years.
Namaste. We hope you enjoyed this Chitti Media content. Please remember to subscribe to us and switch on the notifications for this channel. For our other social media links, more content, and to support our work, please visit citti.net. Dhanyavad. Namaskar.